India. He was elected as national contact person from India for International Congress of Meat, Science and Technology. He received Lal Bahadur Shastri Outstanding Young Scientist Award from Indian Council of Agricultural Research. He was a scientific panel member for Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. I extend a warm welcome once again, sir, to this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, thank you for the nice introduction. So, at the outset,
Thank you,
I would
sir.
like to thank Dr. Ravi and his team at the MD University for inviting me for this presentation. So, I participants one and all. Okay, I'm sure in the last couple of days, you all might be learning various aspects of entrepreneurship, especially the rural entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurship, various other aspects of agricultural sector. And my topic is on, I will just share. Okay, the slides are visible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So welcome to my presentation on entrepreneurship development in livestock and poultry sector. So why we are talking about the livestock and the poultry? So dear friends, you all might be knowing India is an agrarian country. More than 60% of our population depends on agriculture for their livelihood. And the livestock and poultry constitutes an important part of the agricultural sector. So let us see how the livestock and poultry are contributing for the national development in the country. Globally, we see around the world, the livestock and poultry contribute almost 40 to 45% to the agricultural GDP. In India, we have a 2.29% of the world's land, but we have almost 10.71% of the livestock. Now the question is, do we need to keep these many number of livestock in our country? So why require these many animals? Now, in spite of having almost 10.71% of the livestock and the poultry in the world, our contribution of livestock to the agricultural sector is almost 28.4%, around 28%, which is far less than the global average. So what is the reason? In spite of having number one buffalo population, number one in cattle population, four for the poultry population, number one for the goat population, the contribution of the livestock sector, the agricultural GDP and total national GDP is lower when compared to the global average. So what is the reason? So is it because of lack of participation of the private sector? Is it because of the public investment, lack of public investment, or is it because of the policy support? So there are various reasons why it is not able to contribute to the full potential. But last few years, the things are changing. The contribution of agriculture sector to the national GDP is declining from 2011-12 till 2017-18. The contribution of agriculture is declining, whereas the contribution of livestock sector to the national GDP, it is increasing over the years. And this is the reason why the recent government, they have created a separate Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy, because the current government, they realized the potential of livestock and the poultry sector to the national development. That's why they created a new ministry and they want to give more focused approach for this sector. So let us see how the livestock and the poultry sector are contributing towards the national development and what are the opportunities for entrepreneurship development in this sector. So when we talk of livestock sector contribution, they contribute to the national development through economy, through the livelihood, and through nutrition security. So they contribute through these three core areas. When it comes to economy, the value of output from the livestock sector is almost 10,43,656 crore, and the livestock and poultry together contribute 4.9% to the national GDP. This is as per 2017-18 figures. Out of this 10,43,656 crores, almost 67.21% of this, it is coming from milk, whereas the remaining 24.08% of the livestock sector contribution, it is coming through meat, poultry, egg. So why I am stressing is, most of the government policies or the government schemes, they are mainly targeting towards milk production, processing, preservation and marketing. So not many schemes or not many policies are oriented towards meat, poultry and egg, because the livestock sector cannot sustain just based on the milk, because the meat, poultry and egg, they constitute almost 24% of the total contribution. If you want to realize the better returns from the livestock, if you want to realize, if you want to ensure doubling of the farmer's income, I think this is the right time. We need to give more importance to the poultry sector, more importance to the meat sector, more importance to the egg sector, which can enhance the profitability, which can increase the livestock sector contribution to the agriculture sector. So that is about the economy. What about the livelihood? Again, the livestock and poultry sector has a huge contribution in terms of employment generation. Almost 12% of the rural household income. If a farmer earns 100 rupees, the 12 rupees is coming from the livestock sector. Nearly 4.5 to 6 million people are directly or indirectly employed in the poultry industry. The poultry sector is huge. It contributes almost 1% to the national GDP. The total 4.9% is livestock sector contribution, in which the poultry almost has a 1% contribution to the national GDP. 30 million farmers are employed in backyard poultry sector. I think you all might be knowing the desi chicken, we call it. So that's called backyard poultry. So now the government of India, Ministry of Animal Husbandry, has large number of schemes to support farmers through the distribution of backyard poultry, especially to help the rural women, the rural poor people, to ensure their livelihood, to ensure the increase in nutritional security. Now the backyard poultry farming has picked up in a big scale in many tribal areas, in many areas in the northeastern states, and it is employing directly and indirectly almost 30 million farmers. Another millions of people are employed in the slaughterhouses, in the leather processing plants, in milk processing plants. So what I mean to say is, the livestock and the poultry sector is an employment generating sector. You see on the right side, we have this share of workers employed in various food manufacturing industries. Next to the grain milling, it is meat processing, which provides employment almost 11.2%, where the grain milling is almost 28.7%. So the meat, poultry, and egg sectors are highly employment generating sector. They're employment intensive sector. This is the reason now the government needs to orient its policies towards the meat, milk, egg, and the poultry in order to ensure a more employment and doubling of the farmers' income. So that's about the economy, that's about the livelihood, and the third is about the nutritional security. So before that, we have one more. In the year 2012, at that time we had this planning commission. Recently we have Niti Aayog. So according to the 2012 Planning Commission Government of India report, an increase of 1 egg and 50 meat per capita consumption in India would create an additional employment opportunity of about 25,000 people. Just if every person starts eating 1 extra egg in a year or 50 gram extra meat a year, it creates 25,000 jobs. The food sector employment intensity, for every 1 million invested, it creates 18 direct jobs and 64 indirect jobs. If the same 1 million is invested in the software company, it creates 1 job. But if the same amount is invested in the food sector, it creates almost 18 and 64 indirect jobs. So that means whether it's a food processing sector or meat processing, poultry, egg, or the milk processing, they are more employment generating sectors. So that's about the employment and economy, and then comes the nutritional security. In addition to providing the economics, in addition to providing livelihood, livestock and poultry sector also ensures the nutritional security of the country. So you can see 1 in 4 urban adults over 55 years are diabetic. Overweight and obese adults increased from 10% to 20% in between 2005 to 6 to 2015-16. almost 20% chronic energy deficiency in adults, and 38% stunting in children. More than 40% of people suffers from iron deficiency and they are anemic. Even the global hunger index, the last year we have got the global agencies have done a lot of surveys, and what they observed is the India ranks 102 among 117 countries in terms of global hunger index, because we claim as the fastest growing economy and all, but when it comes to global hunger index, we are almost below Pakistan or Bangladesh. We rank almost 102 out of 117 countries. So what is the reason? On the one side, we are overfed but undernourished. They are not getting the required nutrients which are required by the body. The high quality protein and micronutrients are not coming. On the other side, we have underweight, stunted and wasted children. So we need some policy intervention in order to address the nutritional security problem or the hunger index problem which we have in the country. And the best solution is animal sourced foods. So what is the reason for this? Because 70% of our Indian diet, they are all cereal based. Because the cereal based means they lack the quality protein, they lack the quality essential fatty acid, they lack micronutrients like iron, zinc, calcium, vitamin A and vitamin B12. That is resulting in undernutrition in childhood, which causes low muscle mass, fat accumulation and insulin resistance, and also the obesity in the adulthood. So what we are experiencing is protein malnutrition, protein inflation. What we need, so we need is what we need is a good quality animal sourced foods, whether it's a milk, meat, egg, and the poultry. So because they are able to supply large number of micronutrients simultaneously, because they are rich source of calcium, rich source of B12, zinc, bioavailable iron, vitamin D. So 100 grams serving of meat, 100 grams of egg, and 100 grams of milk will provide maximum requirement, daily requirement of our body, whatever is the protein, or minerals, or vitamins, all the micronutrients can be required. So in addition to providing employment opportunities, in addition to contributing to the economy of the nation, the livestock and the poultry sector also contributes for ensuring the nutritional security. So it is a triple benefits once we have a positive policies to support the livestock and the poultry sector. So this is about their contribution. Now come to understand what is this livestock and poultry value chain, because before we go to the actual entrepreneurship development, I want you to understand what is this livestock and poultry value chain. So where are the areas wherein there is a provision for entrepreneurship? Whether it is a breeding program, whether it is evolving a new poultry breed or new breeds of sheep, goat, so there are opportunities. Nutrition, if some entrepreneur want to develop some complete feed, or if someone want to develop a silage feed or poultry feed or pet food, there are entrepreneurial opportunities. Health sector, if someone want to develop vaccines, someone want to develop antibiotics, there are opportunities. Production, management, people want to do poultry farming, sheep farming, goat farming, there are entrepreneurial opportunities. So this is about the meat animal and poultry production. On the other side, we have slaughtering, processing, value addition and byproducts. So between them, animal transportation and marketing. And finally, we have retailing, e-commerce and exports. So when we talk of this livestock and poultry value chain, there are several areas where in the entrepreneurship opportunities are existing. So when you go through this presentation, you will understand, so where are the opportunities for entrepreneurship development? So first, let us see how much we are producing it. So when it comes to milk, India is the #1 milk producer in the world. So we are almost producing 187 million tons of milk in a year, and we are consuming the per capita milk consumption or availability is almost 394 gram per person per year. So that is the highest, 5% per day. So 394 gram. So when it comes to egg, we are producing almost 103 billion eggs in a year and consuming 79 eggs per person per annum. The meat consumption, when it comes to meat, we are producing almost 8.1 million tons of total meat, and the fish, annually we are producing around 13.4 million tons of fish. So that's about the production. So then comes the population. So naturally, India is #1 in terms of buffalo population. For the last 10 years, our buffalo population remains high, and we are #1 globally in terms of that. Then the cattle also, we are #1. We have #1 cattle population in the world, almost 192 millions. We have second largest goat population in the world, 148 millions. sheep 74.26 billion, and chicken 851 billion, and pigs 9.06. And the total, they are producing around 8.11 billion tons of meat. So now the question is, in spite of having these many livestock resources, number one in cattle, number one in buffalo, second in goat, fourth in poultry, why this sector is not able to contribute to the fullest potential when compared to many other developed countries? So what needs to be done in order to ensure a better returns and doubling of the farmers' income? So if you see in the last 10 years, between 2009-10 to 2018-19, the poultry sector, especially the egg is growing at more than 8% recently. The value-added poultry sector is growing at more than 10% for the last 10 years. The egg sector is growing at almost around 8% compound annual growth rate. The milk sector, it has almost reached saturation because we have excess milk in the country, and it is growing at around 6% for the last 10 years. The meat sector, it was at a very high growth rate in the 2009-10, and because of the various policy issues, it came down, and right now the meat sector is growing around 6%, which is fairly modest. But what happens to the population in the last 10 years, especially if you see the livestock census, which happens once in 5 years, as per the 20th livestock census, which was carried out in 2019, cattle and buffalo population is almost maintained in the last 10 years. It almost remains same. There has been a significant increase in the population of the sheep and goat. 14% increase for the sheep and 10% increase for the goat in the last 10 years as per the 20th livestock census. So what we have in India, almost 35% of our livestock are cattle, and then 27% are goat, 20% buffalo, and then 13.87% sheep, and 1.69%. That is about the population distribution, animal livestock population distribution. So I think we have participants from different states. So let us see when it comes to the livestock population. So where we stand, which are the top sheep or the buffalo, goat or poultry producing state in the country. So top 5 sheep producing states as per the 2019 livestock census. The Telangana tops, it ranks number 1 thanks to the KCR government, who have got the huge sheep distribution scheme. So probably that is the one which is ensuring number 1 position in terms of sheep population for Telangana. There has been a 48% increase in the sheep population when it compared to 2012 population. Again, Andhra Pradesh stands second, Karnataka, Rajasthan, and Tamil Nadu. That is sheep population. When it comes to Tamil Nadu stands number 1, followed by Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, West Bengal, and the Maharashtra. For buffalo population, it is UP, Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP, Bihar, and then the goat population, it is Rajasthan, West Bengal, UP, Bihar, and MP. I'm sure we have participants from different states. Probably you will have to do the brainstorming why some states are doing good. If you see Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, so you can see their name in almost all the species. So why these states, even though they are small states, why they are doing good? So is it because of the demand and the supply balance, or is it because of the economics? Is it because of the government policies? So there are various factors which are causing this. So if you see the species-wise distribution, almost this is in terms of meat production. 50% of the meat produced in India is a poultry meat, and the remaining 19% is a goat meat, and 13.53% of meat produced in India is a buffalo meat, which is mainly for the export market, and the sheep and the pork meat cost around 4 or 4.98%. So which are the top 5 meat producing states in India? Of course, Uttar Pradesh is the number 1 state with 1.22 million tons of meat, followed by Maharashtra, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. These are the top 5 meat producing states. So when it comes to individual meat production, how these states are faring? In terms of sheep meat production, again Telangana is number 1, followed by Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Karnataka. Poultry meat production, it is Maharashtra, Haryana, followed by West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. For buffalo meat, again Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. So why I'm stressing is, in almost all the places, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh are there. So what is the reason? So is it because of the policies of the state government? Is it because of the higher meat consumption? Or is it because of the production? Or is it because of the entrepreneurship? So we need to think, we need to have a brainstorming session to discuss about this. And let us see the egg production. So when it comes to egg production, we are almost producing around 103.32 billion eggs in the year 2018-19. So 82% of these eggs, they are coming from commercial birds. We have layer farms which is very well integrated. So almost 80% of the eggs comes from the commercial birds, and the remaining around 17.8% are coming from the backyard poultry. We call it the desi chicken. So 20% of the eggs produced in the country are from the backyard poultry, where we have a huge entrepreneurship opportunities. Probably I will show in my later slides so how entrepreneurship development can be done in this sector. Again, the top 5 egg producing states: Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, West Bengal, and Haryana. When it comes to milk production, we are almost producing 187.7 million tons of milk, number one in the world. Our per capita consumption is also very high. It is higher than the ICMR recommendation. It is higher than what people consume globally. Again, in the milk, almost 50% of the milk produced in the country is from the buffalo, and the remaining 50% is through the cows, and hardly around 3% from the goat. Again, top 5 milk producing states: Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and Gujarat. So this is about the production. So what about the consumption? So how much meat, milk, or the egg we are consuming? Because what globally people say is India knows how to produce, but we don't know how to process or how to consume it. So in spite of having those many livestock and poultry, our consumption level is very less. We are consuming almost 9 kg of fish per person per year, around 394 grams of milk, 79 eggs per person per annum, whereas the global average is around 185 eggs. Meat consumption around 5.5 kg per person per annum. The global average is 40 kg per person per annum, because we are very bare minimal when it comes to meat consumption compared to the global average. But a lot of us will be thinking about converting it to vegetarianism and the bad effects of consumption of meat. But our consumption is very low and bare minimal when compared to the global average. So in order to meet the ICMR recommendation, because what ICMR says is consumption of 30 grams of meat per person per day, but our present consumption is only 70. We need to double our consumption and production in order to meet the requirements. In any case, by 2030, we require around 12.1 million tons of meat. So we need to almost double our production, because now the youth in India have realized, because they want to consume a high quality protein. So they want to consume more amount of animal source of food, be it a milk or meat or egg. So our youth want to consume more of quality protein. So in the coming years, there is going to be huge demand for all the animal source of foods, which our governments need to understand and bring the policies accordingly. And again, if you see the demand in the coming years, the maximum increase in the consumption of poultry meat by 2030 will happen in India compared to any other country in the world. Because all other developed countries or developing countries, they have already reached the saturation. They're already consuming 40 kg per person per annum, whereas we are consuming 5 kg per person per annum. There is a huge demand, and it is predicted that by 2030, the maximum consumption is going to happen in India when compared to many other countries. Again, at present, lot of this demand, it is coming from the urban areas. Almost 80% of the demand for poultry meat is coming from the urban areas, whereas only 20% is coming from the rural areas. But things are going to change. It is predicted that by 2030, we are going to consume around 8.86 million tons of poultry meat. Presently, our production is 4 million tons, and by 2030, we will be consuming 8.865 million tons. The greater share of this increase is to occur in rural areas when compared to the urban areas. So by 2030, large number of rural population are going to consume more amount of poultry meat, more amount of egg when compared to people from urban areas. So that's where we require the rural entrepreneurship. That is the reason why we are talking about rural entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurship, empowerment of women, because these are the areas, this is a sector which are going to mainly empower the women. That's why we are talking about it. And again, consumption in India will not surprisingly happen in cities where largest population increase will happen. However, the increase in consumption is expected across the country. This means the contribution of poultry sector to the national is huge. The software sector develops, it mainly benefits the Hyderabad, Bangalore, or Delhi. Whereas if the livestock or poultry sector develops, it benefits millions of farmers, it benefits thousands of villages. It results in the inclusive growth. That is the reason we are talking about the livestock and poultry sector in this presentation. Okay, that's about the contribution of the livestock and the poultry sector, and an introduction about the poultry and the livestock value chain, the production and consumption. So now come to the meat sector in India. So where we are, because people have a lot of negative attitude or opinion about the meat sector. Just a minute. Meat sector. So let us see where we are. So there are different stakeholders when we talk of the meat or the poultry value chain. So we have livestock and the poultry producers or the farmers. We have live animal markets, municipal slaughterhouses, poultry wet market, export meat plant, transportation and other logistics. We have butcher shops, meat processors, retailer, quick service restaurants, convenience stores, e-commerce people, supermarkets, institutional caterers, consumers. So there are huge opportunities for the entrepreneurship development in many of these key points actually. So we need skilled manpower to take care of the business across the meat and poultry value chain. But these are the traditional meat shop at present, but the things are changing. Now large number of people are traveling abroad. There is increase in the affluence, increase in the disposable income. The regulatory agencies are coming out with stringent regulations. So that is resulting in changing of the meat sector. Large number of multinational companies and the local entrepreneurs, the startups have come into this field, and we are anticipating the things are going to change in the coming years. Are they really changing? I'm showing these slides for the last 10-15 years. Wherever I go in all my presentation, I used to show, and I used to say that things are going to change in the coming days. But it's not really happening on the ground. Even though there are changes in some metros like Bangalore, Hyderabad, or Mumbai, or Delhi, so it is not changing maybe at the district level or taluk level. The things are still really bad. So what needs to be done if you want to change the sector, if you want to organize the sector to ensure better returns to the producers, to ensure a doubling of the farmers' income? So let us go sector by sector. So what is strengths of the buffalo meat sector in the country? I'm sure you all might be knowing the buffaloes are entirely different from the cattle or cows, because buffaloes have no religious attachment. They have no other sacred attachment to anyone. The buffaloes are free from all those religious tension. So what we are producing in the country and exporting is only buffalo meat. Legally, we are supposed to start and export only the buffalo meat, and the buffalo meat export is fetching almost at 25,000 to 30,000 crores per annum. A farmer usually slaughter, because most of the state government, they have regulations. In many states, buffaloes of less than 12-year or 14-year age may not be slaughtered. We are supposed to slaughter only buffaloes which are unproductive, which are not producing milk, which cannot be bred, which cannot be used for any other productive purpose. Only such buffaloes we are supposed to slaughter, and we are slaughtering almost 80 to 90 million of these unproductive female buffaloes. They are mainly milk producing. Once they stop producing the milk, then we are slaughtering and we are exporting. At the end of the productive period, when the buffalo no longer produces the milk, it cannot give any calf, it cannot bred, then the farmer is sending for the slaughter. A farmer will get almost 25,000 rupees per buffalo. Per unproductive buffalo, he gets almost 25,000 rupees. So that is a huge income for the farmer. For the last 10 years, India is the #1 buffalo meat producer. Our country is earning almost 25,000 to 30,000 crores for the last 10 years through export of buffalo meat, because it is supply and demand. A farmer is getting almost 25,000 rupees per buffalo at the end of its productive period. That's why farmer want to rear the buffalo. That's how the buffalo population is maintaining. In spite of exporting huge quantity of the buffalo meat, still buffalo, we are #1 in terms of buffalo population, because there is a demand, there is a supply. Farmer is rearing, because at the end of the day, when the animals start producing milk, he gets 25,000 rupees. So that is the profit, that is the income a farmer is getting. But there are misconceptions among the people, among the consumers. They very often get confused between the cattle and the buffalo and the cow, and there are a lot of instances. So even the farmer don't want to do this business because of all the regulatory issues and because of unfriendly policies from the state government. I think the government need to understand the situation. The buffaloes are entirely different. and the farmer is getting a huge profit by selling his unproductive buffalo at the end of the productive period, and the country is earning almost 25-30,000 crores through these buffaloes. So we have state-of-the-art export buffalo breed plant. So where these plants are, we have almost 80 export buffalo breed plants. So almost 50% of them, the 43 buffalo breed plants, they are situated in Uttar Pradesh. 15 export plants are situated in Maharashtra. There are 5 in Telangana, 5 in Andhra Pradesh, 5 in Punjab, 3 in Haryana, 4 in Bihar. Wherever the state governments have positive policies, they have created a positive regulatory environment. The entrepreneurs are coming and they are establishing the plant, and it is a good return for the buffaloes. The buffalo population is increasing, the meat production is increasing, exports are increasing. This is a win-win situation for the farmers, the exporter, the producers, and the importing countries. So that's about the buffalo. So when we talk of exports, the total agricultural exports from India is around 2,74,571 crores, almost 12% of our total exports. So when you compare with the software, machineries, equipments, and various sectors, agriculture allied sector almost contribute 12%. So out of all the agricultural exports, the marine products, fish, prawns, squid, that contributes almost 17.36% of the total agricultural exports. And the next is basmati rice. India is almost number 1 in terms of basmati wheat export, basmati rice export. And the third is the buffalo meat. The buffalo meat almost contributes 10% to the total agricultural exports from the country. So this is huge. And this 10% can almost, it can be doubled to 20% if you promote, if you have a positive regulatory requirement and the policies. So this 10% can be easily doubled to 20%. That's what when we discuss with all the industry stakeholders. So they easily tell we can easily double our exports, sir, provided we get a good support from the government. So I think the governments need to understand the potential of the livestock and the poultry sector, how they can contribute for doubling the farmers' income, how they can contribute to the nation's economy, and also the employment generation and nutrition security. So when it comes to sheep and goat meat sector, at present, the sheep and the goat sector, they are contributing almost 66,814 crores per annum. However, they have the potential to contribute almost 1,50,000 crores. So what needs to be done in order to ensure a greater contribution of the sheep and goat? We need to organize the sector. Much of this sheep and goat value chain is with the shepherd community. So not much innovation, not much policy support from the government, lot of middlemen in terms of transportation of the animal, the marketing. We don't have a good animal shanties, animal market. We don't have a good transportation facilities. There are huge pre-harvest and post-harvest losses that is resulting in less realization in terms of value. Even though the sheep meat costs around 700 to 800 rupees. Today in Telangana, it is 700 rupees per kg for 1 kg of sheep or goat meat. But at the end of the day, the sheep or the goat farmer is getting hardly 400 or 500 rupees per animal. The margin is very less. We need to organize this sector. We need to create better animal markets, better animal transportation, and organize slaughterhouses for hygienic meat production. We need more value addition. We need more entrepreneurs to come into this field, establish a good slaughterhouses, establish good markets, do better packaging, branding, and then market, so that we can realize a better returns to the farmers. But unfortunately, none of the educated youths or when we have a brainstorming session, no one want to come into this sector. They say the sheep and goats, they are mainly meant for shepherd community and let them do it. No educated youth, many IIM graduates, many IIT graduates, they come and discuss with us, sir, I want to start a new business. When I say, why don't you start business in sheep and goat meat sector, establish a slaughterhouse, establish a processing plant, pack it, chill it, brand it, and try to market, they say, no, it is not my business. So no youth want to come into this sector. That's how we are unable to realize the full potential of this sheep and goat meat sector. So because at presently what we have, these municipal slaughterhouses where these animals are slaughtered, they lack the minimum basic facilities for ensuring the hygienic meat production. We need to create better facilities. We need better policy support from the government in order to ensure better returns. So that's the buffalo sector, sheep and goat sector, and then comes the poultry sector. No doubt, the poultry sector has come up on its own. It has come as a big entrepreneurial activity. India's poultry sector represents one of the biggest success stories of the country over the past decades. In the last 20, 30 years, this sector has been transformed because of some entrepreneurs who came and who invested almost contribute almost 5.6% of the national GDP every year. And poultry industry it's now 1,30,000 crore industry. Almost 20 million farmers are directly or indirectly employed. So when it comes to poultry processing, when I say processing, this is chilling, packaging, branding, and marketing. So much of these poultry processing plants are situated in the states of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and then some in Punjab and Delhi. Again, and some parts of the West Bengal. There are huge entrepreneurial opportunities in majority of the central India states in the central India and also in the northeast India, because there is a huge demand for the meat and meat products in the northeast India. But there are no entrepreneurs, there are no business ventures who want to take this as an enterprising activity. So there is a huge potential for poultry processing in majority of these states where they are completely lacking at present. So at present, the poultry production, processing is mainly concentrated in 8 or 10 states, whereas the remaining 15, 20 states, they are completely devoid of all these activities. So if you see, at present, we are processing around 11% of the total poultry produced in the country. Earlier, it used to be very less. Most of the poultry produced in the country used to be slaughtered on the roadside poultry meat shops, but now slowly things are changing because the regulatory agencies have come up very strongly. Now the consumers want a chilled pack or the branded meat. Consumers got awareness about the quality meat, and that's how. And all the institutional channels, all the 3-star, 5-star hotels, all the engineering college, medical college, their canteens, everyone want a quality meat products to be supplied to them. So that is the reason the value addition, the packaging, chilling, branding, it is increasing the poultry meat compared to many other commodities. Even if you see the value addition across in the dairy sector, it is around 35%. When compared to the meat, it is buffalo meat because almost 95% of the buffalo meat produced in India, it is packed, frozen, branded, and then exported. So much of it is processed, whereas when compared to the marine, still the fish and fish products are far below the dairy or the meat when it comes to processing, value addition, and further processing. Because of very low margin of processing, the country is almost losing around 20,000 crores every year due to the transportation, lack of transportation, lack of refrigeration and chilling facilities, lack of packaging, processing, further processing. The country loses almost 20,000 crores. If we can organize the sheep, goat, or buffalo, or the fish milk sector, that will reduce the post-process handling losses. Actually, we can minimize these post-harvest losses if we organize our farming and production and processing activities. So when I talk of poultry farming, so it is very well integrated. It is vertically integrated industry. When it comes to breeding, feeding, hatchery, and farming, the poultry farms are very well integrated. Almost 70% of the poultry produced in the country is coming from the organized farming sector. So up to the farming level, the sector is very well integrated. But when it comes to slaughtering, distribution, and retailing, it becomes unorganized. So when we speak to all these big poultry farmers, big poultry entrepreneurs, they have invested almost 50 crores to 100 crores in each plant. They have huge feed plants, huge vaccine production, huge farming. But when it comes to meat, it becomes unorganized. They don't want to invest more on the processing, packaging, chilling. They say that consumers don't consume chilled or frozen meat. So we are slaughtering at the roadside shops and then it goes to the retailing and distribution. So this is where the entrepreneurship opportunities exist, especially the post-COVID. Now the consumers don't want to go to the wet market or the roadside meat market or the butcher shop. They don't want to go. Consumers want a chilled or the packed quality meat to be supplied to their home. I think this is the best time wherein we need to promote the entrepreneurs to go for packing, chilling, branding, because consumers want assured supply. They want a quality product to be supplied at their doorstep. There are huge entrepreneurship opportunities to organize this slaughtering, distribution and retailing facilities, maybe e-commerce, maybe having your own refrigerated vehicle and going to eat villages or taluks or district places wherein you can market the quality meat and meat products to the consumers. So I will tell about it in the later slides. So that's about the poultry sector, sheep and goat and the buffalo meat sector. So there are very good vertically integrated poultry farms. We have this Lifeline chicken, Lifeline feeds from Karnataka in Mangaluru. So they have their own poultry farm, they have own poultry processing plant, and they have their own retail outlets. They have almost 250, 300 retail outlets in different parts of Bangalore, where the hygienically processed, chilled, packed, branded meat will be sold to the consumers. We also have like, I am just giving a few examples. There are many processors who are doing good business. This is a gold chick from Hyderabad. And we also have the Sneha chicken. So they have a wonderful processing plant between Bangalore and the Hyderabad highway. So almost 70,000 birds they are slaughtering, packing, and mainly supplying to the army. So very often we had discussion with them. So we used to tell them, why don't you brand, chill, pack, and brand it, and then sell to the consumers. But the demand is slowly increasing because the consumers don't want the chilled or the packed meat. They want a freshly slaughtered meat. They want the person to slaughter in front of their eyes and give the meat. But now because of this corona pandemic and all, the consumer preference is changing. Our attitude is changing. Consumer is ready to buy packed and chilled meat from these shops. Okay, that's about the production. Then comes to the retail. So where do we stand when it comes to the organized retail in the country? So the organized retail is still in its infancy in India. When we compare ourselves to many other developed or developing countries, even the countries like Thailand, China, Korea, Taiwan, the retail sector is almost 30 to 40% organized. But in India, it's almost around 7 to 8% of our retail sector is organized when compared to many other countries. So here, there is a huge scope. There are huge opportunities for our entrepreneurs to venture into this sector. So in the recent past, we have seen how these big multinational companies and local people have come into this business to organize our retail. How, whether it is a business to business or whether it's business to consumer, B2B or B2C. So some of these people have come into this sector because 15 years back, we used to have only one big bazaar in the entire Hyderabad. Right now, we have hundreds of big bazaar, hundreds of Spencer's, more supermarket, because they realize our strengths, our population, and how the retail sector need to be organized. Of course, there are debates. So you can say, do we need this kind of metro cash and carry or more Spencer supermarkets? So are they good for our agriculture sector? Whether they are going to organize, whether they are going to streamline our supply chain, are they good for our society? Are they good for our farming community? So there are bigger questions. I think we can discuss about them. We can have a separate brainstorming session because there are mixed opinion about entry of these companies into the country again. So where do we stand when it comes to retail markets in India? So Indian retail is one of the fastest growing markets in the world and the fifth largest global destination in the retail space. And this is the reason why we see large number of metro cash and carry or Walmarts are coming to the country, because they realize the potential. We have a huge consumer base, and this is the place where a good retailing can be done. So in the year 2006, we had 500 supermarkets, which increased to almost 8,500 in the year 2016. So in 10 years, the number of supermarkets, the number of hypermarkets have increased 500 to 8,500. So this suggests that our retail sector is slowly transforming. It is getting organized. There are 50 million traditional shops in the country. So the food and grocery account for largest share in revenues in India. By 2020, food and grocery segment is expected to account for 66% of the total revenues in the retail sector, followed by apparel sector. Because if the retail sector is organized, the maximum contribution is coming from a grocery sector. At the end of the day, the beneficiaries are our farmers, our producers. So that's the reason we need to organize this retail sector. The organized retail, which accounts for 7% in the year 2017, will reach almost 10% by 2020. Probably this year it will have reached 10% of total organized retail sector in the country. So few years back, we never imagined, 10 years back, we never thought we would be consuming that much of pizzas or burgers in the country. So see, today, India has a second largest number of Domino's pizza outlets in the world. The first is USA. Next to USA, we have a second largest Domino's pizza outlets. We almost have around 300, 400 McDonald's outlets in the country. So what does it mean? So it means if there is a growth in the retail chain supermarket, the food processing sectors will grow. Our farmers will get a better returns to their produce if we organize. That doesn't mean almost 100% or 85% of our retail sector need to be organized similar to the US at all. Because presently we are at 7% or 8%. At least let us organize the retail into 20%, and remaining 80% can go with existing infrastructure and our existing marketing system. So this can give a better level playing field for both farming community, both our wet markets, food, process, and also at the same time we can have better infrastructure, better transportation, better storage, better packaging, better convenience to our consumers. And the next topic is e-commerce. So that's about the retailing. So the retail sector. Next, coming to the e-commerce, changing the retailing ecosystem in India. So where we are when it comes to the meat and poultry. The e-commerce in India is projected to reach almost $100 billion US by 2020. The grocery category makes up only a small share of the market. So earlier, we all used to buy lot of maybe our clothes, our shoes, watch through Amazon or Flipkart. I think now post-COVID, a lot of consumers are buying the food, groceries, including the meat, fish, egg, through the e-commerce business again. So now it has increased. The grocery category makes up just 4.2% of the e-commerce market, according to a report from the e-tail India, compared to almost 30% in China. I think it is slowly growing now. Things are changing. Large number of consumers are buying their groceries, including the fruits, vegetables, meat, egg, poultry, through the online online sites, I think. Online e-commerce in meat enterprise. The need for convenience is a key driver behind India's growing meat and poultry retail markets. The fresh meat industry is highly fragmented, with the current size of in India being around 1,80,000 crores and unorganized market comprising of 90% of the total sector. So friends, this is the reason why we are talking about entrepreneurship development in the meat and poultry sector. Unlike other sectors, when you talk of electronics, when you talk of leather goods, when you talk of textiles, the livestock and the poultry sector is much of it is in unorganized sector. So there are huge opportunities for the entrepreneurs. There are huge opportunities for the startup business ventures to come into this field, because the fresh meat market in India is a 1,80,000 crore sector. It's 90% of it is unorganized. There are huge scope to invest more, invest in a quality meat production, hygienic meat production. There are opportunities in retailing, marketing, transportation, animal markets. So we need to create a win-win situation between the state governments, entrepreneurs, and the institutions. The demand for fresh meat and the lack of quality option in a traditional seller-centric market largely drive the online meat selling market in India. You know, a lot of the e-commerce business ventures are coming up because they realize the potential of this sector. There are no organized players in this field. So following some of the startups who have invested almost 1,000 crores and are slowly gaining traction. These startups are using a technology integrated platform. So there are some examples, I'm just giving some examples, especially who are doing business in the meat and poultry. So Tender Cuts doing good business in Chennai and Hyderabad, Zap Fresh mainly in Delhi and NCR area, Pipola again in Chennai. Then we have Licious. It has become talk of the town. I think everyone is aware of the Licious. So she's a multinational company and they're doing a very good online business in Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, Hyderabad, Bangalore. But the problem is these e-commerce business ventures, they don't have their own production unit. They are sourcing the raw material from someone else. They are sourcing the raw material from the municipal abattoirs or some other place. They are just packing, branding, and then they are supplying to the consumers. So now the regulatory authorities, especially I am part of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Now what the FSSAI guidelines says, they need to have their own production plant. You need to start your own sheep, goat, same place, pack it, brand it, and then sell it. So that assures quality to the consumers. So probably in the coming days, now the regulatory ideas are changing. Probably they need to have their own processing plant so that they can assure quality to the consumers. So that's where the e-commerce is going to be a very tricky issue in the coming years. So it cannot continue like this. So what I think you had a presentation about the creative entrepreneurship. So what does it mean? We need more innovation. We need more creativity among the entrepreneurs in order to do the business in the coming days. So we all used to get newspapers or a packet of milk to our doorstep in the morning. So can we supply half kilos of chicken or 6 eggs along with your newspaper or the milk to the doorstep? And some entrepreneurs think of such ideas. Some startups who can supply 6 eggs and half-kilo chicken to the doorstep every day morning along with the newspaper and milk. So can we have these smart kiosks which disposes maybe a biryani packet or chicken curry or mutton curry packet, maybe at the airport, at the railway station, we can have this kind of smart kiosks in different areas. So these are the entrepreneurship opportunities we need to think of in the coming year. There are huge opportunities. Only thing is we want some startups, some entrepreneurs to come and do the business in these areas. Okay. Now the big question is the schemes or the program, because when we train people from different sectors, I myself has trained more than 1,000 entrepreneurs in the last 10 years from almost 25 states. So we used to teach them about the various value-added meat products, the clean meat production, the slaughtering, processing, what are the requirements, the business avenues, what needs to be done. But at the end of the day, so they want some schemes, they want some programs to support their business. So I'm not going into the details of the schemes. So there are two ministries who provides a financial help if someone wants to start a business. So one is Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Government of India. Another is Ministry of Food Processing Industries. We have Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampad Yojana under the MAFI, under DADH, Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying. They give a lot of financial help. And currently, the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying in the October 2020. So now, in order to promote Atmanirbhar Bharat, Honorable Prime Minister has announced this. They have come out with a 15,000 crore schemes for Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund. So they want to give loans to the entrepreneurs who want to establish a milk processing plant, meat processing plant, or animal feed plant, or any value addition under the Prime Minister's Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan stimulus package. Almost 15,000 crores. 15,000 crores was announced last month by Honorable Prime Minister. I think currently it is there in the DADH, the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying website. So where any private companies, individual entrepreneurs, farmer producer organizations, Section 8 companies, micro, small scale and medium scale enterprises, anyone can apply. So they can get a loan up to almost 90% micro scale entrepreneurs, whereas for the medium enterprises it's up to 85% and others can get up to 75%. This is back end subsidy scheme. So again, here I want to just intervene here. There are a lot of schemes announced by the government, by different ministries. But at the end of the day, at the grassroots level, the entrepreneurs are unable to utilize these schemes. Suppose in this case, they want these regulatory clearances from a person who applies for a loan. So they need to obtain a local authority clearance, no objection certificate from the land authority or leaseholder. They need to obtain a permission from the Pollution Control Board, trade license, permission from the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, Water and Air Act, State Electricity Board permission, MSME registration if it comes under MSME, registration under Companies Act, registration under Labour Act, and any other clearances. I think this is the reason which is stopping many of the small and micro scale entrepreneurs to come into the picture. Because if a big entrepreneur who want to do business in 5 crore, 10 crore, so he can take care of all these things. When it comes to micro or small scale entrepreneur who want to do business in 1 lakh or 2 lakh, so it is not possible for him to obtain all these clearances, or because when I train an entrepreneur, so many of them, they're all small and medium scale. As a faculty, we do the skill development program, we organize training program, we tell the pros and cons. But at the end of the day, these small, medium scale entrepreneurs end up in running from pillar to post. They don't know who to approach. They don't know where to go and ask. So a lot of institutions, maybe be it a MG University or be it many other institutions, we all are very happy in organizing the training program. We give the lectures, presentation, but And the governments, they are announcing various schemes. They announce 15,000 crores, 20,000 crores. But at the end of the day, because of many of the policies, because of many of regulatory issues, actual entrepreneurs, especially the small and medium scale entrepreneurs or the rural entrepreneurs, they are not able to utilize some of these schemes. They are not able to successfully venture into the business. And many people will give up after some time because of various hurdles. I think we all need to think of it. Shall we create some? Can we have some agency? Can we have someone who take care of these small, who can link these small entrepreneurs to the banks, who can take them to the regulatory agencies and get clearances? So that's where all these entrepreneurship development is failing in some places because there is no coordination between the funding agency, between the training agency, between the entrepreneur, between the banks. So somewhere there are missing gaps which need to be addressed. I hope in this training program we have a best brains and you all can discuss it further. In the morning also I was listening to the micro scale in business funding and all micro funding. So there are gaps which need to be addressed. At the end of the day, these smaller micro scale entrepreneurs, they simply don't know who to approach, where to go at. So there is no one agency, one institute who can support them. So we need organized information. They don't know who makes DPR if someone wants to start milk processing, who makes DPR for poultry processing, who helps to link him with a bank, who help him to get the clearance from the local pollution control board. So there are issues which need to be discussed. I hope in this training program, many of you will understand and will discuss further about all these issues. So with this, I would like to just summarize my presentation. So we have government agencies, we have universities, institutes, we have private industries, we have producers. What we need from the government agencies, they need to create positive regulatory environment and increase the consumption of one egg per day by one person. It creates 25,000 jobs. Can you imagine if we can provide eggs through the midday meal schemes? We need 25 billion more eggs that can create millions of jobs. So this is what the government policies need to think of it. Just promote the consumption, have a positive regulatory environment that itself can do wonders. Our farmers, they don't require much of schemes or programs. What they want is allow them to rear the buffaloes because allow them to send their buffaloes for slaughterhouses. And at the end of the day, they take 25,000 rupees per one. So the government need to come out with good policies, positive policies, and also create a good positive regulatory environment that is helpful to the entrepreneur, that is helpful to the farmers. At the same time, the universities or institutes, they need to evolve science-based information. If someone says the backyard poultry meat is good for health, we need a scientific information to take to the consumers. And again, the producers, they need to adopt good production practices. Why we are not able to export to the developed countries? Production level is not up to the mark. So our producers need to adopt a good production practices in order to ensure the quality so that we can export to the developed nation and our income can be doubled. At the same time, our private industries, whether it is a milk processing, meat, fish, egg, anything, they need to adopt a food safety management system. They need to prove the consumer that whatever we are producing, it is safe, it is hygienic, it's not going to cause any disease or any harm to the consumers. They need to ensure that. So universities, institutes, they need to promote the technologies, promote the value chain, promote skill development, promote entrepreneurship, demonstrate the public that this is going to be a viable business opportunity. So that can ensure developing of the farmers. But at the same time, creation of better infrastructure. I think it comes under again the state government. Why some states are doing better. So probably those state governments are giving more importance to the infrastructure creation because most of the states they are busy in creating more new number of medical colleges, engineering colleges. So no one bothers about the animal markets or retailing or big shops. It is the least prioritized area. The slaughterhouses, they are generating almost thousands of crores every year revenue, but you don't find any light or any water supply inside the slaughterhouses because none of the state government take it as a priority. What we need is a policy issue, positive regulatory environment need to be created. So I would like to conclude with this. Identify the strengths associated with the livestock and the poultry sector and contribute towards filling the gaps or the weaknesses. So that is going to help that is going to double the pharmacy. So after this, I just want to show few slides what exactly my institute is doing. Probably for many of you, my talk or my institute may be new to you and you may not be knowing what we are doing. So this is a National Research Center on Wheat. It is located at Hyderabad. So we do consumer awareness program, we do a lot of skill development program and then value addition training programs. So we teach the entrepreneurs about preparation of various value added wheat products. So this is how we do. Normally the entrepreneurs, they come for the training. We organize 5-day hands-on training program. So we charge around 3,000 to 5,000 rupees per head for this training. So during this 5-day program, we teach them how to produce a clean and a quality meat, what it takes to establish a slaughterhouses, if you want to prepare various value-added meat products like sausages, nuggets, burgers, so around 10 to 12 value-added meat products, what is the process, what are the ingredients, what are suppliers, equipment, how much it costs for anyone to start a business. So every A to Z, anything which is required for an entrepreneur to start a business, we teach them during this. So after the training, if an entrepreneur is interested, we further sign an MOU with our institute. Once he signs an MOU, we prepare a detailed project report and we also help him, we link him with the bank and we help him to establish his own processing plant. He can use our processing facilities for 1 year and then he can be a successful business venture. I'll just show a couple of slides. These are our processing facilities at the institute where we train our entrepreneurs this. So we also have agri-business incubation facility. So we also incubate the new incubators in the meat, poultry, and business ventures. So these are some of our client lists. So we have signed MOU with our institute, undergone the training, they signed MOU and then they started their own business ventures. So we have our entrepreneurs from different parts of the country. So who have done, they're of course, they're all medium scale or micro scale entrepreneurs. So after taking the training program, they signed MOU and they started doing their own business. I just want to show a couple of success stories because this training is about the rural entrepreneurship. So a group of goat farmers, around 10 goat farmers from Maharashtra, they came for the training program in my institute. So they're all like a 3 days or 5 days training program. So they took the training program. During the training, we have shown them around 10 or 12 meat products, how to prepare these value-added meat products. So after going back, he just started doing a business with a mutton pickle because they have huge number of goat population in the Maharashtra state. So you want to just prepare a mutton pickle or goat meat pickle, which can be stored at room temperature. So now every day he is almost selling around 200 kgs of goat meat pickle in and around Nashik, Pune, and Mumbai area. So this is one small success story made by a group of goat farmers from Maharashtra. We also have this one entrepreneur. She is from the outskirts of Hyderabad. So she came for the training program and she has started doing business only these pickles, mutton pickle. And as a woman entrepreneurship, she got support from some government scheme and now she is successfully doing this. One more group of women, around 10 women from Tirupur village of Siddipet. Actually, these women were brought by the Secretary Society for Eradication of Rural Poverty, SCRP. Secretary SCRP brought these 10 women to our institute. We trained these women entrepreneurs to become entrepreneurs. We trained them to produce various value-added products. They got support from their MLA, Mr. Harish Rao, who is also a minister. So Mr. Harish Rao came to see how they are getting trained here, and he announced that he will give a small space, a small room in the Siddipet city, and he also sanctioned them a 10 lakh rupees to design this meat on wheels, which we have designed, wherein these women entrepreneurs can take this around the Siddipet district and they can market it. Now, this group of women entrepreneurs have become successful in the Siddipet area. This is one success story. How a rural woman can be promoted to take up the entrepreneurship act. I think it needs a political will. Probably had Harish Rao, he was not there, probably these women would not have done this business. So what I mean to say, it is the political will, these policies, the government institutions, some funding agencies, they all need to work together in order to create a success story, especially if you want to promote rural enterprises, women entrepreneurship. There was one more success story we created recently. There is one Karnataka Sheep and Wool Development Board in the Karnataka. So Sheep and Wool Development Corporation Limited, they signed MOU with our institute. They have sent unemployed SC/ST youths. They have sent these youths in different batches, so 25 members at a time. So these youths were trained at our institute to produce and eat hygienic meat, various value-added meat products. The government they gave them almost 85% subsidy. All these 200 beneficiaries meet on wheels vehicle. Now they are processing their own products and going around this vehicle to sell the product in the Karnataka. This has become a success story. How a small group of farmers can be benefited through the political will. Again, this board has took up this and they have gone almost 6 months, 1 year. They are coordinating with our institute. They continuously brought these people. One person every time he brought them in a group. They got them trained. They networked with the bank. They ensured that each one of them will get this meat on wheels vehicle and some amounts for the running cost. Now it is successfully this business is going on. So this year, January, February, we also trained around 40 people in a training program which is sponsored by Agricultural Skill Council of India about the supply chain field assistant and animal health workers. So some of these people they got employment in some poultry processing plant and some other farms with their 25 days training at our institute. So these are all small entrepreneurs or unemployed youth who got training under different heads and they got some small jobs for the livelihood improvement. So in addition to that, we have various other entrepreneurs from across the country so who took the training from us, they signed MOU and they are doing business. I'm sure many of you might be doing this. This is a very normally used training pattern. So once they take the training, they sign MOU and then they get the technical help. So this is an entrepreneur from Farm Fresh Pork from the Vijayawada. So we have helped them in establishing a small pork processing facility wherein now he's slaughtering, packaging, chilling and marketing the pork meat. So he's one entrepreneur from Kurnool actually. So he has got his own restaurant. So he came here, tried, and then he could able to make use of some of the techniques which he learned at our institute. And then he is an entrepreneur from Delhi. So who is doing good business with the meat products, value-added meat products. And we also recently have some startup business ventures who came to us and they launched some apps, especially for e-commerce business. Actually, they want to do the home delivery of meat and meat products in and around Hyderabad city. So these are some of the examples which we have done at our institute to promote the quality and hygienic meat production, value addition, and value-added meat products. I think with this slide, my presentation. So thank you one and all for your patience. Again, I request you all to please follow SMS. That is sanitize, mask, and social distancing.
Okay,
So
fine.
once again, I thank the organizers
Shall
for
I
giving me an opportunity
closing the
to
session?
present.
I'm not happy with your answers. All of you have performed on an average. That's it. I didn't get those excellent answers. Assignments also, most of you have done copy paste job. So whoever is there, convey to the rest. Okay, chalo. Closing the session.
Bye. Bye, madam. Take care.
Bye, madam.
Put Shastri Baba.
అరే ఏం సబ్జెక్ట్ నేర్పించినామా లేదన్నది చేస్తారు ఏంది?
Yeah,
అట్లా కాదు.
kindly mute
పోనీ,
your speaker, the participants. Yeah, any questions from the participants?
చెప్పండి కదా.
Any questions from the participants?
What is it? No, ma'am. There is no difference.
ఏయ్, విహాన్ ఇక్కడ ఆడుతున్నాను బయట ఆడుకుంటా అని చెప్పి ఇక్కడ ఇద్దరు
Yeah, dear participants, you have any questions? Hello.
Sir,
Yeah.
am I audible, sir? Good evening, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead, madam. You are audible.
Sir, can you put some light on this foreign direct investments into this area, sir?
Okay. Yeah, now there are stringent guidelines with reference to the foreign direct investment. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, we have FSSAI under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So they look into these import business sector. But again, lot of process want to come in. They want to do the business, but still they feel these sectors are very sensitive, especially the meat sector, or whether it's a sheep, goat, or buffalo meat. They feel these like is not many people willing to come into this as of now. Even though we have some imported beef products, even the imported milk, the duty charges are very high. The trade barriers, we have the SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and also technical barrier trade. So these are the issues which are preventing. So because sometimes people say the American chicken legs are going to come to India, the New Zealand milk is going to come to India. What will happen to our farmers? So there are a lot of trade issues are going on. So there are many issues with the diseases, the safety, whether the chemical residues, antibiotic residues. There are many SPS and technical barrier to trade issues which are preventing the foreign direct investment in many of these sectors.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Sir, is it audible?
Yeah, audible.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I'm S. Ramesh Prabhu from Guddolar Engineering College, Andhra Pradesh. Sir, thank you for your excellent presentation. I have a query with reference to, it belongs to Guntur area. We come to know that the Ongole breed is going to extinct in the near future. Is there any entrepreneurship opportunities in terms of breeding the Ongole breed?
Yeah, because many breeds now there are no buyers for them. There are no takers. In the ICR, we have an institute, of Animal Genetic Resources, National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources. It is located in Punjab state, sir. So you can visit this institute's website because they have various genome bank wherein they have conserved bit of these breeds actually. So it's a very good idea because you can visit that institute. Probably you get a lot of information. Even as a hobby, I think some farmers, I have seen some farmers in the Vijayawada where they are conserving some of the animals, some of the breeds, especially the Vechur breeds, some other animals. So there is a good opportunity to breed them. Again, what for? Is it for the draught purpose? Is it for the milk purpose? Is it for any other purpose? You need to think. So is it economically viable? Because as an individual, for you it may not be viable if you want to do the business activity. So there are many issues. So, but you just visit that institute, National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources, you get a rate.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, any more questions? Sir, thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. On behalf of Department of Management Studies, Mahatma Gandhi University, I would like to propose vote of thanks to Dr. Navina for sharing his valuable insights about entrepreneurship in livestock and poultry stock. So you have told that the contribution of livestock globally is more than what India contributes, like 40 to 45%. It contributes agriculture GDP globally, whereas India contributes only 28.4%, which is much less compared with the global contribution. So when you compare with the contribution of agriculture to the national GDP, it is falling, whereas the contribution of livestock to the national GDP it is increasing. It is one of the good positive sign. So the value of output from livestock sector is 4.9% in Indian GDP, in which the poultry contribution is 1%. Even though it is low, there is a very chances of increasing it. So the livestock contribution is 12% to rural income. That is nothing but very low as of now. So nearly 6.0 million people are directly or indirectly employed in poultry industry. So that is what one of the good sign. There is a huge potential for the growth of the poultry industry. So she also explained that there should be a necessity for organized market for this slaughtering houses for this beef, sheep, and goat meat sector. So it is one of the important essential element which is lagging now. So there is a huge entrepreneurs opportunities increasing after this post COVID because most of the consumers are health conscious, so they are not willing to buy the meat from the normal vendors, outside vendors. So there's a huge opportunities in organized retail sector in this area from India also. So it was really an informative session, sir. Thank you so much. And I'm happy that the most of the participants have cleared their doubts with you, and have a great session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.